Good morning. Welcome to breakfast with me, John Kay, in Westminster today, where the Queen's body lies in state for a fourth and final day, and Nina Warhurst is in the studio in Salford. Here are headlines this morning. The US President Joe Biden has arrived in the UK ahead of the Queen's funeral. He will be meeting King Charles along with other world leaders at Buckingham Palace a little later. It's been announced that big screens in towns and cities across the UK will show tomorrow's funeral, along with 125 cinemas. Meanwhile, thousands of people continue to queue to pay their respects. The Queen's body will lie in state for another 24 hours. And the US President Joe Biden has arrived in the UK ahead of the Queen's funeral tomorrow morning. And this is as today marks the last full day of the Queen's lying in state here, with people warned that the waiting time is now at least 14 hours. This is the queue not far from where we are at the Palace of Westminster, the final stage before people enter Westminster Hall. You can see it's moving pretty quickly at the moment. It seems like the authorities are keen to get people through as quickly as they can right now, so that they can get through the huge numbers which still remain and which are likely to build as Sunday goes on.
Police have charged a man with a public order offence for allegedly leaving the queue of mourners to approach the Queen's coffin on Friday morning. The Metropolitan Police say Mohammed Khan will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on Monday. He's the second person to be charged with committing an offence while in the queue to see the Queen lying in state.
World leaders arrive in London ahead of the Queen's state funeral, as members of the public are advised the queue to see her lying in state will soon be closed. The US President Joe Biden has, in the last few minutes, paid his respects to the Queen in Westminster Hall. And this is the scene outside Westminster Hall as members of the public wait patiently for hours to be allowed in. Among the 2,000 guests at tomorrow's funeral at Westminster Abbey are members of the public who've been preparing for the solemn occasion.
Fairly choked up. Emotional is probably the main word, yeah. Honoured and emotional.
I'm here on the Mall, where people are preparing to camp overnight ahead of the funeral.
Let's go back now to look at the events of the next 24 hours. After days of lying in state, the coffin of the late Queen will begin its final journey tomorrow morning as part of a grand state funeral. At 10:44, it'll be moved from Westminster Hall to Westminster Abbey, a short distance away, where the funeral service will be held. The Royal Navy's state gun carriage, seen here rehearsing, will bear the coffin, drawn by 142 sailors. Senior members of the royal family, including the King and his sons Prince William and Prince Harry, will walk just behind in the procession. At 11 o'clock, the Queen's funeral will begin in Westminster Abbey. It's thought 2,000 guests will attend. Towards the end of the funeral service, the last post, a short bugle call, will be played, followed by a 2-minute national silence. The service will be broadcast on BBC TV, on radio and on bbc.co.uk. It'll also be shown on big screens in public parks and venues across the UK, and around 125 cinemas will also screen the event. After the funeral ceremony, the Queen's coffin will be taken in a procession to Wellington Arch at Hyde Park Corner. The procession will be led by members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and the route will be lined by members of the armed forces. The King will lead members of the royal family walking in the procession. The coffin will then be taken by state hearse to Windsor. At 4 p.m, there'll be a committal service in St George's Chapel in Windsor Castle with a small congregation, including the royal family, and this service will also be televised.